a lot of the time we are looking at our resources that we've got to hand and the resources that we can pull in to try and make it happen for ourselves in order to achieve strategic objectives. And that's the sort of thing that we're going to be looking at today. So there's several components to this, and we'll spend quite a bit of thinking time on it. But I'm going to I'd like to just swap so that we all know each other's businesses a little bit with the think tanks, and then we're going to get into what I call core processes. What are the core processes of your envisaged business at this point in time, and then what is it in the future? And then we'll look at the resources and capabilities in your particular industry sector, just like we did with the 3D printing business. With the 3D printing business, we knew that there's a lot of serendipity in that technology at this moment in time. We want to have high quality, workable machines. A lot of the time, a lot of these machines don't work very well at all. A lot of the parts don't work very well. And the filaments are, you know, because a lot of it's plastic, which is like a long, thin thing. But if it's not good quality, or it's not been produced with good quality, you get little blips in it, you know, little sort of like, it gets a bit thicker at some stage. You know, think, well, that's no good. You go through a 3D printer and it just stops, you know. So it can't work. So we knew that we had to find parts and filaments and the technical side of things to be really, really good, so that we knew that it would work. If you're going to build a business on it, we knew that that would be a key competitive advantage in our particular case. And so we're sort of like getting into what we have available, what is our strategy, what is our focus, what we're going to do to make it all work, essentially. That kind of thinking today. We've got a number of different models and structures that hopefully will elucidate that. By the end of today, and we have to finish promptly at 4 max, okay? By the end of today, I'm hoping that you will have a really strong sense of, not necessarily your own strategy, but a strong sense of what you need to do and what you need to think about to get that strategy up and running. You know, I think in a day we can't formulate the strategy. I think what we can do is put some key pieces into place ready, in that sense. Okay? Is that all right? Shall we get going then? Could we just have, you know, since you're working, 3 of you and 2 of you, would you mind just going through your strategic spider with each other? There's a few key questions I'd like you to ask yourselves. So I'd like to understand, or you to articulate to each other what your strategic spider looks like, focusing in on the things that we looked at last week. But in particular, I'd like to explore the 5 forces, if you remember that, you know, or something to do with the industry life cycle as well. Have you really used that to think through what your business actually is? And what about the stakeholders? Who are your stakeholders? But in particular, your customers and other people involved in your business. So I just wondered if you could maybe have 15 minutes or so each to explain to the others what you're doing, and the others press that person to challenge them into thinking more carefully about their particular product, businesses, etc. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it might be half term.
Yeah, we had a lot of some illnesses, some half-term childcare, yeah. So we're doing a catch-up with people who can come to do, and then if we March, we'll all be back together. And there was something last minute as well, because people weren't very well. So yesterday we should have had 13 people, and then never mind.
This is also difficult. Yes, it's so difficult, and I think that way, isn't it? I think
Alright.
Yeah, I've got my big sheet.
It's funny, I was just saying, it's like getting your business knowledge and things and brain.
It's tricky because you're so you're what you do is caring such a part to what you do. You put your business head on.
Yeah.
You try to think about making money. You don't just sit on something very well, but like you say, that helps you get the ideas out of your head. You need to make a living, and there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Well, I thought with our first catalyst there's a lot of people started because they really strongly believed in something, but that belief doesn't necessarily sustain them. We've all got mortgages to pay, and we've got to translate that passion sometimes that's there into an effective, sustainable business. Really, otherwise people can't sustain themselves.
So maybe if we just
You're doing your passion and then at the same time working because and subsidising your passion for
I think we actually worked
with the
more
working,
on
which is not quite the right way around.
but also the box I did when we did that. I've seen you actually since last session.
On the accounting course.
It doesn't need to be money.
Foundation.
I think if you're
right,
selling something
So
in that sense, you just don't know what you don't know. So you've got to search for and be very conscious of your lack of knowledge, actually, in a way, so that we can start piecing it together. Now, I found myself with the crowded builder concept. I find myself going into meetings. I say, "Oh yeah, we're building the crowdfunding," you know, and a lawyer would say to me, "Well, have you considered FSMA regulation?" And I said, "Well, what the fuck's that?" you know, what are you talking about? I've never heard of it. So I didn't know what I didn't know, and so I've got to say, I've got to rely on people to help me through that, you know. And I'm building the resource and pulling people in to know or become more aware of what I don't know, you know. Now, there's specialist knowledge in all of that. Sometimes there are issues, and I can't always quite get all that information together. We were lucky in the sense that we went to the Sheffield City Council and said, "We think this is a good idea," you know, and we sold it to them, you know. So they gave us a little bit, tiny bit of funding, right? But it was nowhere near enough. Not even just to pay the lawyers' fees, you know. So, but nonetheless, that I think is our challenge. We've got to know what we don't know, or we've got to at least subject to a critical analysis ourselves in our lack of knowledge about the design of the future state. And that, unfortunately, I don't know of an easy way forward on it, you know, because we're all limited human beings. If we were God, we could create our businesses straight away, you know. But because we're only human, we've got to make that inquiry, which I call experimentalism. You're experimenting with the possibilities of a new process or structure in your business in the future, but you don't quite know what it is yet, you know. Over a period of time, and it's taken us in the crowdfunding thing about 18 months. We were designing the process, getting more and more detail into it, and finding that we didn't know certain things, or finding a bit more, etc., etc. And on the 23rd of July 2016, we sent what our proposals were to what was called Queen's Council. Okay, this is the highest authority in the land to say, are we conforming to all the regulation? And it came back clean. They said, yeah. So that maybe they don't know. But nonetheless, that is the journey that we're on. When we're creating something new, unfortunately, there's nobody you can copy from, you know. On the house construction side, well, that's not too difficult because everybody's been building houses for ages, and I can go to a builder and say, listen, you know, and he'll say, oh, no, I'll do it like this and I'll do it like that, you know. So that's not a problem because I can rely, I know what I don't know personally, but I know who I can find things out from. But when you're creating something absolutely brand new, like crowdfunding using this equity-based form that we were looking at, that is really difficult, you know. But it is the way it is, I'm afraid. You know. So what I would like us to do is to start designing that, whatever that is, in each case. And it'll shift as well, you know. Today, on the 20th of February 2017, it'll look like this, but you know, you might wake up in the morning and no, it won't work, this is scup of that, or it's too difficult, or big too. I'll have to shift it. But the it will change. But that is the way it is, you know. But we've got to design it still. Okay. Right, what time is it now? 12:05. Okay, so let's go through one further model, right? We'll do this over lunch roughly. Okay. I'm just going to switch this computer on and stuff because it's all gone off again. Right. Come on. You know, I personally think that business is fascinating, you know. When you get starting to look at things like this, every business has a great potential. It's almost like finding it and finding something that's, I call it feasible and desirable. We're always looking for what is feasible in our given context with our given resources and what's actually desirable to serve the people we're serving, your clients who want clean homes, your children who want to be educated, you know, your children with teething problems, you know, whatever, you know, we're serving somebody always, we're searching for something that will actually enhance our capabilities in that regard. But business is not, to me, I've never seen it as just cutthroat. It's actually highly altruistic at one level. You know, we're trying to find things to serve people. Okay.
John?
Go on.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry.
4 minutes into care, like for this, I love your enthusiasm and your passion.
Thank you.
Honestly, don't you guys? He's a really good teacher.
That's very nice of you to say.
Honestly,
I'll bottle it for tonight. Let's go to another model. Now, this is in your workbooks.
You've got them in our books.
Have you got your workbook? Second one.
there's the workbook there.
Have you got yours?
Everyone got one.
Have you got another?
Everybody's got one, yeah? Okay. Just going through the... so, the workbook, if you look at it, we're asking you to review, basically. We'd like you to keep working towards that. But now I'm going to move to page 9, okay? I personally think we've got to get some really good thinking here, right? I'm introducing this little framework. This is all it is. There's nothing complicated at all about this, and I'm just going to explain it. It's come from quite a well-known. It's quite a well-known model. It's come from somebody called Grant, okay, some years ago, and he was doing very much the same exercise as you are now, okay, searching for new business opportunities. His context was with slightly bigger businesses, but I think the same rules apply here, right? And we're involved in that central bit, that strategy bit. That's what we're trying to formulate, a strategy for our business that will work, because ultimately we want to take out anything that we feel is we're unsure about. That's basically common sense. We're reducing risk. We don't want to be floundering around forever on something that won't work. What we've got to do is trying to formulate a strategy that will work. Now, that is a journey in its own right. It's not going to be something that we can do in an afternoon. With the Crowd It, Build It exercise, literally, it started formulating, we started believing in it a little bit more over quite some months, maybe 3 months, that formulation of the strategy. And even then it wasn't really right. And to be perfectly honest, I never thought it would work early on. I thought crowdfunding for house construction seems a bit wild, you know. Even crowdfunding, the concept was quite alien to me. Even when we got it through Queen's Council, even then, 23rd of July, I was thinking, nah, it can't work this. I mean, I know that now we've conformed to the legal side, but, you know, can it work? Can it work? Can it work? Then we put it to the market. We started selling, basically, to the crowd. And, you know, we got a lot of interest. You know, and then I started, bloody hell, I think it might. You know, it just might work this. You know, on the 1st of October, or 31st of October, I think it was, we drew down the first cash from the investors. We put £500,000 into the bank, ready for the first build. Then I thought, geez, this will work. You know, so I suppose it's almost like your own personal journey, and I could never pretend that I have a strategy here. It's not definitive. I always think of a strategy as just a journey, but we're trying to put things into place which we reduce the risk around by carefully thinking it through. Now, in that strategy, there are 2 or 3 things according to this model, right? Now you can see them here. You've got competitive advantage, industry key success factors, and then organisational capabilities. Okay. Just as a starting point, where do you think we should try and start doing our thinking? If you took those 3 areas: competitive advantage, organisational capabilities, and industrial key success factors. What is it? Where do you think we should start?
Competitive advantage?
I think that's yeah, possibly. You know. Any other points, or questions, or ideas? Where would we start?
Can we do it?
Go on.
Well, organizational
Capabilities.
capabilities.
That's interesting. Well, I asked the question because I wasn't sure, because my perception of it is, what is the key success factors? What is it that I'm going to do, which is going to give what is it that, I mean, in your industry there are some very key industry success factors, you know, which concerns the quality of what you do. Because you will not keep your client base unless they're happy. If you can get that part right, whatever you do, wherever you go, and whoever you serve, you've got to serve that and make sure that is correct. I'm only guessing now because I don't know your industry. In your case, my guess is, I mean, you're in education, really, in effect.
Yeah.
I would have thought your key industry success factors are going to be around the educative sort of like, but it's not in the minds of the child per se. It's in the minds of the parent.
Yeah.
If the parent can see their child developing, they buy plenty of bloody books.
Yeah.
You know, and they'll get online and recommend it. You know, they love it. So it's that kind of thinking, that industry success factors. Now, competitive advantage, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's not necessarily one starting point, but the competitive advantage is your differential in your market. We had it when we discussed your key differential was that, I think it was the timing. You could turn it around in 24 hours, right? Maybe, you know, something I had half a bottle of wine last night, you know, and I thought, I'll just go and move rooms, you know. I spilt it on the bloody floor. Now if you could, you know, my wife was out, and I thought, oh my God. Now if you could turn around in 10 minutes, I'd have you in, you know. No, that's just a joke, really. But I suppose what I'm saying is we've got to think out in whatever our future state is. You know, we've just started to try and define that. If it's crowdfunding, or if it's a 3D printing, or if it's clean, or whatever. What is it that differentiates us, and what's going to give us that competitive advantage? Now, in the 3D printing business, we thought, and I think it's slowly being proven to be reasonable assumption, is that if we get into the retail side, that will help us. Bring us up the supply chain, and people like Fripp will be buying our product, and we can actually have a competitive advantage over anybody because we're not competing directly with them. They're now, you know, so kind of